All right, thank you everyone for the patience. So you saw in the first session, Malvika and Dharya covered mostly Teams. I'll be talking about email protection and specifically focused on mail bombing attacks and mixed mode attack protection within Microsoft Defender for Office 365. So to start with, just want to kind of cover a small agenda, how we will go about in this session. First, I'll give an overview, an attack overview of what mixed mode attacks are. And then we'll dive into what specifically we are doing or we have done for mail bombing protection. And then from there, because this is a hybrid attack, a very much oriented with different systems where the attack takes place, how does mail bombing event actually correlate into Teams phishing activity, and then how does it play out in a complex attack vector landscape. And then we'll talk about what is the SOC visibility into the mixed mode attacks, reports, etc. that you will see. And then I'll have some time at the end for Q&A. So just real quick, starting with a very high level view of what is a mail bombing attack. I'm hoping that nobody has come across this so far in your organizations, but if you have or if you will, then what this will mean is basically imagine getting large volume of emails or like literally hundreds, thousands of emails pouring into a particular mailbox within a matter of minutes. This is basically what we identify as a mail bombing attack. And attackers do this for a very specific reason. And you will see this, I'll cover this in the next few slides. But the way to think about this is essentially it's a DDoS type of an attack. But it's a DDoS attack on the victim's email triaging and attention budget. We all are super busy. We have so many emails in our inboxes. And like if you have so many emails coming in matter of minutes that you did not expect, then obviously it's going to be very overwhelming for a particular target. And that's exactly what attackers are trying to get to. They want to basically target a victim because your attention budget is going to be super limited when you get overwhelmed by so many emails in your mailbox, and then you basically know that this is an attack, a mail bomb attack planted in your inbox at that point of time. So that's kind of how a very high level framing to think about it. And going forward, what is the mixed mode attack overview? So now you'll see how mail bombing is just a start of this whole attack that we are talking about. What happens here is that think of this as steps, or basically an attack pattern, which involves what we call as 5 steps. To start with, the attacker initiates a mail bombing campaign, just as we talked about, and we call this first step as resource development. So here what happens is it's targeting the intended victim's M365 email account, and then the emails are basically not necessarily malicious emails. They are registration based emails. They are sent within minutes by subscribing you to legitimate services. So this can happen through any different type of lists, etc., that they can sign you up for subscription based email. Oftentimes these are spam emails, but not always. But more or less think of this as like spam emails that you get in your inbox. Then the second step is a defense evasion step, or sort of an initial access step, if you will. Here what happens is a new M365 tenant subscription gets created by the attacker, or what they do is they may use let's say a compromised account that they already have been tracking within a particular subscription. And what they do is then the attacker creates a particular user impersonating either a help desk representative or a support or IT representative. And there is a reason why they do this. The next step is basically the social engineering aspect of it, or again, this is still into the initial access phase. But here what they do is the second step where they got the user created, which is the impersonated user, they basically, the attacker will send a message or initiate a voice call, let's say, to the target, impersonating that help desk or support representative. And at that point of time, what they do is, the social engineering tactics that they use is, they pretend that they're already aware of the mail bombing activity that's going on in the victim's mailbox. So this goes something like this, like, hey, I see that your mailbox is attacked by a mail bombing activity, and I am calling from help desk, or I'm the IT support in your company, and I would like to help you and fix it. And so, that's where the dynamics come into picture, where um, it's like you're in such a fast-paced mode, you're trying to figure out how to get this fixed, and then yes, you receive a call from somebody who looks like your IT support, but it's not. And then in that rush, this is the whole aspect of urgency of social engineering, where likely the victim falls prey to it and be like, okay, yes, someone's trying to help me, and that's great. So this is where they offer the help to fix the flooding caused by the mail bombing activity. Then the fourth and the fifth step are the most important step, which is why they start with this mail bombing in the first place. Fourth step, which is what we call as command and control. This is where the attacker will now convince the victim and have them download a remote monitoring or management tool. Examples are AnyDesk, and there could be some other examples. And they'll basically try to gain control over the device. And this goes something like, can you give me access to your remote system, or can you download this tool so I can help you? Here are the steps, go for it. And then, you can imagine number of bad things can happen from there. And this is where the last step, the fifth step, which is the impact, is when, if they get successful in that command and control step, then the attacker would obviously deliver malware to the victim's device, which is the end goal of why they do this. And this is the pattern that we have seen overall, how this whole complex attack plays out. So hopefully that gives you an idea about how complex this attack pattern can be. And we have seen this in what we call as Storm 1811 and Storm 1674 attack chains. These are just names that we give from Microsoft point of view, and otherwise when we see these attacks. So now let's talk about how in Defender for Office 365 we protect against the mail bombing protection part of this. So mail bombing detection is based on multiple different intelligence signals. It's a combination of various factors, and I want to give you a sense of what that combination looks like. But this is by no means to say that this is the only factor that is, like, taken into consideration in order for mail bombing to detect that this is actually a mail bomb. So a couple of them are basically sending patterns of the particular sender, and specifically historical sending patterns. Like in the history, how has the sending pattern of this sender be? It's also a combination of first contact sender, which is, if this contact is sending me email for the very first time, then it's going to be a flag in combination of all these historical patterns plus number of emails received within a certain amount of period from this first time sender, which I did not expect, etc. And then there's like a threshold and stuff that we set to see how many emails were received beyond a particular threshold. If it goes within a certain period of time, with the combination of first contact sender with some historical patterns, sending patterns, or like relationships not established between the two sender and receivers, etc. Then it basically triggers saying this is a mail bombing activity, and I can see that this is going on in your mailbox. So that's overall how the system basically determines what a mail bombing activity looks like, and how this is protected in MDO, or Microsoft Defender for Office 365, is we have something called a new detection technology called mail bombing, which is again based on all these signals of first time contact, domain reputation signal, sending patterns, etc. And then this technology will basically detect and show you like, okay, I have got this. You can see this in your Explorer view. If you are a SOC analyst hunting for this mail bombing activity, then you can basically look at the detection technology equal to mail bombing and filter by that. And then you will see all the activity across the board that is blocked and the number of mail bombs that have happened. We have overall seen approximately 20 to 30K mail bombs that are being blocked daily by this particular detection technology that we created. We created this in 2025. So it's fairly stable, but not necessarily like new or like, super old. It's still fresh new. And this is kind of what we have seen on an average, catching across 200 to 300 users every single day, 20 to 30K of mail bombs. Now, if you talk about like SOC visibility, there are multiple uh, different factors that you can see how to basically help out the SOC analyst. So a couple of them I'll talk about here. One is how the SOC visibility comes into picture when they want to see mail bombing in the detection technology in Explorer. So even though the detection technology will show as mail bombing and like the threat type will basically show as spam here, what happens is automatically these emails will start going to your junk folder. So this is where the user who got overwhelmed about like, hey, I have so many emails in my inbox and I am attacked by a mail bomb, right? The feature will kicking in and basically it will start junking everything as identified as mail bomb and send it to your junk folder. And slowly what happens is until like that threshold keeps on meeting, it will start kind of slowly bringing the number down from your inbox by moving it to junk folder. So that's the idea of making sure that when there is an active mail bomb going on in a user's mailbox, at that time the detection technology kicks in. It knows this is a spam threat or a mail bombing threat, and I'll work on this and slowly reduce the amount of emails that like because emails would still be coming in from an attacker point of view. So it's not just like a one-time activity that one email send it to junk, another email send it to junk. It's basically keeps working on that window um, and keeps sending it to junk over that period of time. Then the next part is the sock hunting part. I think this is where we have seen a lot of interest and a lot of usability. There is email events table, and in the email events table, again, you can search for new detection technology, mail bombing, and then you can see the results. Like you can see the destination folder, whether the action was delivered or not, whether the directions was inbound or whether it was intra-org, what operations were allowed, etc. So this comes in very handy is what we have heard from the SOC analyst, like to search for and hunt for the mail bombing activities. Now, if we talk about the correlation of the mail bombing within teams or within uh, any particular, let's say, collaboration front, this could be, but from a Microsoft standpoint, Teams. So the way to think about it is the step that we talked about earlier, where an attacker poses to be, hey, I'm IT support and I'm sending you a ping message on Teams, or I'm actually doing a voice call to you. And I'm going to talk about uh, solving your mail bombing problem in your inbox. So this is where the correlation between the mail bomb that has happened in your inbox versus with the team's activity that the attacker is trying to get to is what plays out here. And the way we do it is we have a couple of new alerts. First alert is the mail bombing activity detected. This is the one that identifies the high volume, large email flood activity. Then we have another alert. It's a long name. called potentially malicious IT support teams impersonation post mail bombing. Um, and what this does is this flags the suspicious email threads that come in as they are followed by after that first email based flooding activity that has happened. Then there is one more alert which says remote management event after suspected Microsoft Teams IT support phishing. So this is that step where if a remote management library was run within, let's say, 15 minutes of the Teams call or a Teams chat, then it triggers as an alert saying, hey, please watch out. There was some remote management activity that has happened, and we suspect that this could be something related to the IT support Teams phishing. There is another alert which is not very specific to mail bombing, but in the context of that entire hybrid mixed mode attack that we talked about, the complexity of like all these steps. There is one more alert I wanted to just highlight to you all here. It's suspicious encoded PowerShell execution initiating a network connection. So this one, what it does is whenever there are, let's say, some obfuscated scripts that are reaching out to attacker infrastructure, then it detects and this alert gets fired. The reason I wanted to highlight this is because this could be helpful when you're looking at this whole attack chain, a pattern in a complex manner and trying to, like join the dots as to what has happened where. Again, not related specifically to mail bombing, or we didn't actually create this alert in line with the mail bombing feature, but it also helps as a related alert. So please keep an eye out for that one as well. Yeah. And then I think the other important thing to talk about is we would like to empower SOC with all these advanced hunting capabilities, all the what we call as indicators of compromise, the IOCs. So a lot of different IOCs can be email addresses, IPs, or keywords like IT support, etc. And I'm sure many of you who are in the SOC world would already be using some of these. So what I'll highly encourage is craft your custom queries to uncover these hidden threats. Like this is not just in context of mail bombing specifically, but if you think about this as like this is one example we are using, but if you think about the attack chain across the surface, then you can search across identities, you can search across endpoints, all the Office 365 data as well, and you can also investigate post breach activities, like for example MFA changes that have happened, or maybe some password resets that happened from an emergency standpoint, like quickly change your password kind of a thing. Or you can investigate activities related to privileges escalation, all these remote management tools and host binary, etc. So mainly that's to say that please make use of these IOCs, because this will be really helpful when you use advanced hunting, for example. And here, like for advanced hunting using the alerts and incidents, what you can do is this is specifically coming back to that mail bombing and the mixed mode attack pattern. You can use alert info, and what it will give you is basically information about clickable links. And here you can see, like, for example, you're using alert info table, and you can say title equal to the Microsoft Teams chat, which was initiated by the suspicious external user. You can use alert evidence also to collect potentially related IOCs from a particular alert. So again, that comes in handy as well. Moving on, similarly, from advanced hunting point of view, there is something called custom detection rules, which is also available today for SOC teams. And what you can do here is, I think earlier I showed very briefly, like you can just use this new table or the existing email events table with a new detection method called mail bombing, and then have more things added to it, like your sender from address, recipient email address, subject, etc., etc. And then similarly, in the custom detection rules, there are a whole lot of more opportunities to collect these IOCs. But I wanted to just highlight a couple of them here. We have a fairly newly released table called message events. So even in this message events, you can search for different threat types like phish, malware, spam, and then again, add it with your sender display name, email address, recipients, etc., etc. And then the same thing, message events is also used to detect the bidirectional communication with external help desk. So here, this is super powerful because then here you can say, for example, here I've called out, you can say recipient details contains help, or it contains desk, or it contains words like keywords like support, also like working home, etc. So that way, these are very specific things that we have seen attackers do, and then you will get a whole lot of information if you use these specific keywords. Yeah, I'll share a blog as well after this call in the chat, so you all can see, like, you can copy paste basically these queries from the blog directly. um, like, you don't have to take a screenshot of this, etc., to figure out what that query was. So it'll be easy for you to just copy paste from there. Yeah. And then the last thing is the reports. So there are two type of reports where we surface the mail bombing activity. First one is the mail flow status report, and it's just built in into the SOC experience or in the admin portal, and then you can just pull it up and see the mail bombing activity. I'm hoping that you don't see a whole lot of mail bombing activity in your organization, but if it is, then it will be able to show you the actual activity that has taken place. And then also we incorporated this into the threat protection status report, so you can see that here as well. And then again, you can filter if you want to, and you can, add your mail bombing filter, or even like have other filters like fingerprint matching, or URL malicious report, and those type of things. Yeah. So that is pretty much it, and I think we are ahead of time. So I will move on to Q&A now if there are any questions or comments.
Folks, you can come off mute and ask your questions.
I don't see any in the chat. Is there any question here on the?
Is there any specific license requirement for mail bombing, or is it included part of any of the P1, P2?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. So, mail bombing protection, like, you will not have to specifically turn on a policy, at least there's no configuration. But yes, it does need MDO P1 and P2 like plans for it to work. So it's yeah, it's to say that it is on by default working in the background, and you don't have to specifically like go to a particular policy to turn on the configuration or anything like that. But you do need Microsoft Defender for Office 365 for it to work.
Thank you. So basically, the organization should have at least one P1, P2 for it to work.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, any further questions?
Yeah, I see a note in or a question in the chat for the blog. There are 3 blogs that we wrote, or 2 blogs actually that we wrote for this as a blog series. You should be able to find all of them linked as part of this first blog that I'm sending, but I'll send you the other ones also. So both the part 1 and part 2 of the blogs in the series, I'll just put it in the chat here. Yeah, so it's basically protection against multimodal attacks, but mail bombing is part of it. And multimodal, mixed mode, hybrid, it's all the same terms for a complex attack.
All right. So if I think the question on licensing has been answered. So if no further questions, so folks, please keep posting your questions on the chat so that Urja can take it up on the chat. But then if you don't want to come off mute and ask any specific questions, thank you so much for your time, Urja. So we can move on to the next session. Thanks a lot.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I love coming to this series every year. I've been participating in this. There, Malvika also. So yeah, we are super excited to represent Microsoft Defender for Office 365. And I think there are 2 more sessions from MVPs
Yes.
on MDO stuff. So please check them out as well.
Awesome.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.